Someone just walked in between us.
That was his first contact with us, wasn't it?
Yes.
These are my things. Don't touch anything. Get out.
We've been working downstairs. We came upstairs, and as soon as I looked down the hallway, I noticed that Mr. Tinker's door was closed. The door is never closed.
A lady, actually, I saw her walking past.
Did she walk into this room before we did?
She walked through the wall.
It seems as though the Victorians were the last group of Americans that were comfortable with death.
There's something in their lineage that connects them to the Revolutionary War. It was something small, but significant.
He made a statement.
Yes.
This show is not about hunting ghosts. It is about meeting them. Hopefully, we will meet some.
You have this worried look on your face, isn't it?
Come out.
Okay.
Come out.
Yeah, they're like, ooh.
Right.
And I heard the death of his son. That's when I thought this was Abraham Lincoln. Steve, we're in the sitting room of the Tinker Swiss Cottage, and I would really like for you to tell me more about this room.
Sure. This is a sitting room. Basically, it's kind of like a parlor, but a little more informal. This is where they would do a lot of their hobbies, reading, drawing, things like that. So basically, this is the family area of the house.
Okay. When people came to visit, they would be in another room, right?
Right. Usually, when you came in the house, you go to the parlor first.
Okay. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was on previous visits, and I would walk through the room, and so I would spend some quiet time in these rooms, and one of the things that I experienced seemed to be based around this couch. Can you give me an idea of the age of it or anything in particular?
Most of the furniture we don't have a whole lot of provenance on, so I would say it's probably mid-1800s, but besides that, not a whole lot of information.
The last visit I had, I heard two gentlemen speaking here, and they seemed to be seated.
So right now, Bill and Steve are in one of the side rooms, and he's actually talking about the couch. Sometimes it gives you a better idea if you know how old something is or you have a historical context to put the spiritual pieces together. And Bill's actually talking about a couple spirits he picked up on, so we'll find out a little bit more about that in just a second.
And I remember that one of them was called Mr., and I'm not sure about the name, but it sounded like Manny or Manning, something like that. And is that the name that relates to previous owners?
Yes, her, Mary, Mr. Tinker's wife, her first husband was named John Manny, M-A-N-N-E-Y.
E-Y, okay.
Yes.
All right, that may have been what I was hearing. And even right now, as we kind of settle in here, I think it's a residual that I'm hearing because I don't remember the previous conversation in detail, but this is very similar conversation. So I think it's a residual occurrence, meaning it's like a tape recorder running.
Okay.
There's a gentleman seated there, and there's one here, and this is the one that this gentleman in this side called Mr. Manny?
Manny.
Manny, okay.
So right now, Bill and Steve are talking about both Mr. Tinker and Mr. Manny. Mr. Manny was apparently the husband of Mary Manny, who Mr. Tinker, I think, worked for when he first moved to Rockford in the mid-1800s. So getting an idea of some interaction between the two of them. And we'll see what else we can learn about them after this.
This gentleman here, his voice it's not raspy, I'd say it's kind of squeaky, or it's almost irritable to listen to. He's very eloquent in speech. He's using verbiage pertaining to, it's lengthy. There's a little bit of verbiage about a lawsuit. And then he ended, and he wants to know this gentleman's opinion of spiritualist. If he has ever met one, what he knows about it. Do you know if Mr. Manny was into spiritualism or related to it in any way?
We don't have too much information on Mr. Manny. They moved here originally from New York and later moved to Rockford, and they started a factory, the Manny Reaper Works. Besides that,
I just heard something when you said Reaper, that evidently he's making reference to this gentleman here. He's giving it a specific name that he called it. Was there a model name or something that you know of?
well, we know the company was called the Manny Reaper Works. I'm not too familiar with the actual model numbers or anything like that.
Yeah, so this may be Mr. Manny here talking
Okay.
to him, because now it's extended. It's going past that residual that I thought was there, and you can actually kind of pick up on a conversation. It's a little bit vague, but there's a conversation. Why? I don't know.
Yeah, we can do something here.
I'll help you. I'll get you started. Okay.
Let me know. You want me to go this way or this is cool?
No, you're good right
Okay.
there. So, Millie, what was you talking about? What's going on?
Well, inside, Steve and Bill were both discussing either one or two different spirits they picked up on, or at least Bill picked up on. And what was interesting is he actually talked about a specific man. This is Mr. Manny and perhaps even Mr. Tinker. The difference being that when I was with Sonia, Sonia could pick up on maybe if someone was male or female. All I can really do at this point is just have an idea for if something or someone is around. I can't really hear or see anything, but that's the idea, is that by becoming more open and more aware to something like this, you can learn it over time, almost like a language. Something that you might have had when you were young, and then you gain it by practicing over and over again and becoming more aware to it. So that's one way to think about it. So it was interesting that Bill and Steve were talking about something specific. Sonia and I had a general idea of what was going on, but we really couldn't get much more than that. So it's interesting to see and hear their observations on everything that's transpired so far. All right, so dining room.
Someone's sitting in that chair.
Really?
Yes.
Can I get closer?
It's up to you.
All right. Am I scaring them away, or are they still there?
They're laughing at you.
At me or with me?
At you.
At me.
Sorry, the joke.
All right. It's funny you mention that, because before, when we were there, I was looking at these chairs and how small they are.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking it'd be cool to sit in them, because they're like these miniature baby chairs.
Right.
Because I'm, me and my girlish figure. So, is it a man, woman, boy,
It's a
girl?
man. It's the same person that was laughing at us in the
the
library. Yeah. Again, I can't really make out a face. I just see it outline. Oh, they're laughing louder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it obvious what they're laughing about in terms of me, right?
I mean, in terms of how we're speaking about him.
Okay.
Yeah. Hilarious that I can sense him too,
Yeah.
but that you can't.
I can't.
And you keep talking to how you feel it in your back and your eyes start to water. You think that's hilarious. Like, why do you have to do so much?
Oh, I don't know. It's the way I'm wired. It's the way I was
Right,
made.
it's not
I
really
guess,
your
right?
fault, but I mean, it's good that you're sensing something, and it really doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
But he just finds that a bit extra.
Huh. But anyone on that chair?
No.
Just this one. Still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should just hang out here for a while and see what happens.
Okay. Are you sensing anything other than, I mean, do you still feel the temperature drop? Because it just got cold.
It's still cool, yeah.
Right.
It's still the same as it was before. And
My arm.
yeah, I felt a little bit around my palms. As I said that, it's like cool air just went under my palms like that. So This is neat. This is definitely a different experience.
It is.
And it's entertaining for our guest. I mean, our host. We're the guests.
Exactly. He finds it funny that you can feel him in your palms. He's laughing at you.
Just need like an instruction manual from.
I mean, but again, it doesn't matter.
It was built.
It doesn't matter how you sense him, as long as you know.
The fact that I do.
The fact that you do is what matters.
That's
a lot
neat.
of people have probably walked through here and never felt anything.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, right? We're kind of taking our time, which is a good thing. You need to slow down to sometimes not only appreciate this stuff, but even for it to register.
Do you have any photographs or anything where they would be viewing the body?
Well, we don't have any exact photos of this parlor, but I did a lot of research. And usually they would set them at the head of the room, so maybe they would be behind you. So they would be in a place where everyone can see the coffin.
Right. Tell me, what is so interesting about the architecture of this room?
The corners are actually rounded. For one thing, it was very expensive to do, so it's like, hey, look, we have money. And then another reason they would do this, which I'm sure you're familiar with, there are spiritualist reasons why people would do this.
The Tinkers were Christian
Yes.
in faith, and yet here they build a spiritualist type parlor. Do you happen to know why they rounded the corners? The spiritualist wanted the corners rounded?
That's one thing. I mean, they didn't really talk about it in their diaries or anything. They're more like, I've transplanted my hostas, or it's 83 degrees,
Okay.
but not too much of that stuff.
Well, I'll enlighten you just from what I know of spiritualists, that they would often round the corners in the rooms where they would hold the wakes because they didn't want the spirits to be trapped in the corners. So this is an exceptional room because there aren't many buildings left with rounded corners.
All right, so Bill and Steve just finished up in here in the parlor. They had a really interesting conversation about spiritualism and accepting people, which is one time where I felt some good energy. It's one thing Mr. Tinker probably wanted us to know about him. The other thing is that there are quite a few people in here at one time, maybe 15, 16 people with all the crew, and there's a difference between when we've been here before scouting, when it's just been a few of us and one or two camera guys, and we thought that, at least Sonia and I felt the building might have been a little bit more active, or we might have felt more spiritual presence. Now, because there's so many people here, maybe Mr. Tinker and the Tinker family are a little more hesitant or a little more maybe worried about what's going on here, and so they're more of observing us and just wait and see approach of, well, let's see what they do, as opposed to coming out and being open with us.
Does it feel like you want to actually sit here and have a meal?
I'm actually getting hungry.
Yeah.
Well, that's no surprise.
Right. Is he laughing about that?
Doesn't know what we're talking about. The fast
He
food.
wouldn't know what fast food is.
Right. I was like, question mark.
That's neat that you can not only see him but hear him laughing.
Yes, this is a two-story library. It's actually a square room, but he makes it look like an octagon. He put different things in the corners to make it look like an octagon. We have the 7 ancient wonders of the world underneath the balcony here. We have a spiral staircase, and overall, this is one of my favorite rooms in the house.
He's enjoying that we're back.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's enjoying that we're here. He's not quite sure what the younger two, as he calls them, we're talking about all the time. He said some of their words he's not familiar with. He said they're very enjoyable people.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's nice that he's in favor of us.
Yes.
He's asking me, Mr. Tinker's asking me, he said, why did I bring up spiritualism and spiritualist? And he's saying that it seems odd that he has heard you speak of it, but he hasn't heard other visitors speak of it in detail. Do you have many people come through that speak of spiritualism or spiritualist?
Not too many, unless you're a historian or you're just into this kind of thing. Sometimes I mention spiritualism on tours, but a lot of people just don't know what I'm talking about.
What he and his wife knew of the spiritualist movement was not what he understood when I said it was evolving into a religion. He said he did not know that it was church-formed, church-based religion. What he and his wife knew of the spiritualist movement was not what he understood when I said it was evolving into a religion. He said he did not know that it was church-formed, church-based religion.
Okay.
He said he would have never have done spiritualism to become a religion of his.
Okay.
That he found it fascinating. People could communicate with loved ones that had passed. He's saying based on how he is, he understands it now.
Okay.
Yeah, he understands it because he wants to be here, but he said his soul is not here. It's only his spirit that is here.
Okay.
He's enjoying experiencing what you and the staff here are doing.
Okay, good.
Now this room has a lighter feel to it, like a definite energy change between this room and back in the kitchen. Do you feel that?
It's cooler for one, temperature-wise.
Right.
But I feel a warmth in here that's not temperature-wise. I feel welcome. Does that make sense?
You feel welcome?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the first thing I noticed about this room was the picture here.
Which one? That one?
It's right here on the wall, right here.
Okay. What about it?
I don't know. It's just a strange feeling that I get. Almost like a protective or guarded feel.
Did you have a feeling about her when we were here last time?
No, I did not, which is why
So-
I'm kind of surprised that
So
I'm
something
feeling
new,
it. This is
something
something new, right?
Yeah.
Almost like a sense of resistance coming.
As in she or whoever that might be is worried that we're all here?
Precisely, yeah.
Or that they don't want us here? Or just curious about what's going on?
Just a little resistant, maybe cautious, guarded. Those are the words that's coming to mind. So
But not angry.
I don't feel anger. No,
Okay, so
no
that's
anger, right? So I still do have that prickly.
good. From what we were feeling over there in the
Right,
kitchen?
but it's much more stronger in the kitchen than it is in here. But I'm still feeling it on my arms.
I haven't felt anything.
Nothing?
With what usually happens with my back and then my cheeks and my
Right.
eyes, nothing yet.
Nothing yet?
No.
Okay.
So
Did you want to keep moving?
we can keep going.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go.
There's definitely two spirits here having a detailed conversation about spiritualism. There's a little bit of verbiage about a lawsuit, and then he ended and he wants to know this gentleman's opinion of spiritualist. If he has ever met one, what he knows about it. This gentleman here asking this gentleman, why is he concerned about spiritualist? Why is he asking the question? This gentleman is saying that it's something new, it's something that's very innovative. It looks like it could be investigated scientifically.
Spiritualism was a remarkable occurrence that swept across America and then the Victorian globe. It was often considered a religion because it integrated the traditional spiritual beliefs with the modernization of the world and the newness of modern science. While each class of Victorians were attracted to different aspects of the movement, most often it was viewed as a belief system for the upper class in society.
But as of right now, as I'm sitting here, there's a female spirit here, and she wants to know, why was I walking with a cane? She sensed that I'm not feeling well today. And she's actually taking cold towels and bringing them to my neck because I'm running a fever. Because I have lupus, and today is one of my bad days. And She's really concerned about me right now.
Can you feel the actual cold
Yes.
on your, does it feel good?
It does.
Soothing, calming?
A little soothing. Very different from my first experience of, she was a little guarded, you know. I'm not sure if this is the same person that was in the bedroom. Now I'm getting the cold towels around my neck and on my head.
Yeah. You don't know if that's her, though. It could be a different.
Very different. More concerned
Yeah.
about my well-being, so that's nice.
Well, speaking of your well-being, how do you feel about walking a little bit?
I can get up and do a little walking.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's check out a couple of the rooms upstairs.
Okay.
Mr. Manny's mentioning a lawsuit. He's talking to this gentleman about representation. And why would you be combining the two subjects? You're here talking to me about my legal condition when you're asking me about my spiritual beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Does any of this jive or make sense of anything documented that you've read or know about them and their history?
Yes, there was a lawsuit between Mr. Manny and Mr. Cyrus McCormick of Chicago. Cyrus McCormick sued John Manny for patent infringement in 1855.
Okay.
He hired a series of lawyers. We're kind of famous because one of the more famous lawyers that he hired was a guy that you probably heard of named Abraham Lincoln.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Be fascinating if it were Lincoln sitting here. He's very eloquent, yet how his voice sounds throws you off. It's just screechy or something. I don't know what to call it. Do you know anything about Lincoln and his oratory abilities?
I do know he was a very good speaker. He was a good storyteller.
Knowing very little about Abraham Lincoln and absolutely nothing about the quality of the voice he possessed, I began a very extensive research to see if there was anything documented about this part of Lincoln. To my surprise, there were several accounts documented from Lincoln's law office partners, who wrote and spoke freely of concerns they had regarding his squeaky voice and how irritating it was to listen to. They feared that his voice would hinder their clients, but Lincoln's abilities as a lawyer outshined his vocal shortcomings.
I still felt some resistance going into her room.
Into her room.
Yeah.
Let me know if I should still keep going in here. I'll let you know what I feel.
Okay.
And if you think I should leave or if it's a place where I shouldn't be, let me know. How's that?
Oh, she's standing right behind you.
Okay.
She just appeared, just like that.
Just like that. You have this worried look on your face as in maybe I shouldn't go. Well, I'm starting to feel stuff on my hands now.
Are you?
Yeah, it's actually way colder than over there.
Come out.
Okay.
Come out. She
Yeah.
honestly took chairs and put them in your way.
So I couldn't go.
Right. Maybe she doesn't understand that non-physical chairs versus physical chairs won't do anything to stop you from walking through.
She's clearly demonstrating to one of us she doesn't want us in there.
It could be that, you know, you're a man entering a bedroom.
True.
Yeah, but she literally just put a chair in your path.
All right.
Almost as you were backing into it, almost as if she wanted you to trip over it.
I'm glad I didn't.
Right.
Thanks for the heads up.
No
It's a good
problem.
thing you're looking out for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
First day in Mrs. Tinker's bedroom, I didn't really feel much at all. But that second day, big change. My hands, my arms got cold very quickly. And I thought, maybe this is the spirits telling me something. And then Sonia says it was actually Mrs. Tinker putting chairs behind me to make sure I didn't go inside. I thought, whew, that's just unbelievable. And while I can't hear or see anything just yet, these sensations are like clues. Almost like a code that I have to figure out. So I'm really interested in learning more about what it all means.
The only time that Mr. Lincoln came to Rockford that we know of that's, actually been verified was for this trial. He actually wrote down, I am going to Rockford to seek out about the more information about the Manny Reaper works, since he was hired as one of the lawyers to represent the family. You know, Mr. Tinker probably came to Rockford a lot of times because he was doing all these speeches and he was on the road as a lawyer.
You mean Mr. Lincoln?
Mr. Lincoln, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Only time that we know of that he actually was in Rockford was for the Manny Reaper trial.
So he very likely could have been to their home.
Yes.
Okay.
How's it feel today?
There's someone pouring water into that bowl there.
No kidding. It's okay to come closer, or
No resistance today.
okay, so that's good. It's not a residual, right? It's nothing repetitive where there's.
It's the person that's putting the compresses on there.
So this is where they might have been preparing that.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
over there is where they came to tend to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really neat because one time we were here and it was light. Another time we were here and it was get out.
Right.
And today it's let me help you.
Treating us like family members.
Yeah. Well, you go through the ups and downs with any sort of family.
Yeah.
Mr. Tinker's speaking again.
Okay.
I know it's him.
Right.
He's talking about the wall off to that side of the room. There was something that he had as a grid map of the city
Okay.
with the parks on it. Do you have anything sounds like that? He said it hung there for a long time. And he was very proud because there were many parks that he was a part of, and that map reflected all of them.
We do have some neat maps from the 1880s and 1891. It almost looked like someone got into a balloon and sketched it because it's actually an aerial view, but before they had planes, of course, so somebody had to find a way to get up there. And now one of them is actually in his office in the basement of the house. It's almost like a two-dimensional, three-dimensional map where you can actually see the buildings. A lot of the parks in Rockford are actually labeled on the map.
Okay, he's saying that hung on that wall for a long time.
Okay, maybe it's time to bring it back.
Could be. Okay, where are we, Steve?
Well, we're still in the basement, and this is Mr. Tinker's office. So this is where he would have done a lot of his, he was a landscape architect, and so he would have done a lot of his architect work down here.
Okay, yeah, there's good lighting in this room, so I could see that. And this is one of those drawings that you were speaking of when we were upstairs?
Right, when you were talking about the map that had the parks in it.
Right.
Well, this is one of the aerial view maps that we were talking about that had, it does have some of the parks in town represented on the map. And this is from 1880.
Okay. Mr. Tinker's saying it is a map that looks very much like this, but the one that he's talking about that needs to be rehung in the library is, he said it's about a foot, no, he said it's 10 inches bigger in each direction.
Okay.
10 inches wider, 10 inches higher.
That would be the 1891 map. That is...
Now you know.
Yep, because it's bigger than this one and has more detail because, you know, since it's more further in the future, there's a lot more industrialization, factories, things like that represented on the map.
Yep. He's saying if you want, he'll show you exactly where you need to put it.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. You know, he's with us here, and he's clarifying not to feel sorry for him.
Okay.
When I was in the bedroom, I thought, wow, what a difficult change in his life. And he said, not to feel sorry. He did well.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 1901, Mr. Tinker lost his foot in an accident at the railroad yards. As a result, navigating the upper level of the cottage became difficult for him. he spent an increased amount of time downstairs in an above-ground finished basement that houses the root cellar, the pantry, his office, and a bedroom. Now mostly confined to this floor, this must have been a crushing blow to the man who spent so many cherished moments upstairs. What offers the team solace is the fact that most of the encounters with Mr. Tinker's spirit are before his accident, possibly when he was the happiest and most productive.
One little thing I forgot to mention, when I was going upstairs and he was calling me over to the window, he said, "Would you please tell Steve," specifically Steve, "it's a little bit chilly in here and you need to open the damper."
Okay.
Do you know what a damper is?
I know what it is. I don't know.
Do you know where it is?
No, I have to talk to our HVAC guy to...
He's telling me.
No.
He said it's in the sitting room.
Okay.
He said you'll find it in the sitting room. He said it has a chain that operates it.
Okay.
I want to see this thing.
Right.
I want to find out what a damper is.
Yeah, in fact, I think I might know what you're talking about.
Take us to it.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Jeez.
All right, I think it's right over here.
Well, let's have a look. Let's see what it says.
All right. It says the Peock Williamson Furnaces of Cincinnati.
Okay. Fascinating. And it has a lever.
Yeah, definitely moves.
Oh, wow.
And right here, you can tell there was a part of the furnace. This is all covered up now.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But-
Very interesting. Well, what type of heat system do you have in here?
Now we have just regular HVAC.
Oh.
It's all like central air.
He's saying he doesn't understand.
Right, okay. Question mark.
We have a heater and a air conditioner all together.
So he's saying you don't stoke it.
No. No.
Okay.
It's all by, well, he knows what electricity is, so it all
Sure.
uses electricity.
Oh, okay. All right. He said he's good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's good with that.
How important is it to have a museum, historical location that has not been altered?
When you find a home, mansion, whatever it is that's been preserved, and they were the only occupants of it, it is major. You have layers of their lives to go through. And each time you visit, you may be experiencing them at a different time in life, in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s.
Do you think they will ever leave?
It's a part of them that's here. They're not, they're a part of them in other places too. The part that's here is, as long as we have a memory of them, as long as they're a subject of discussion, that part will be here. It's like a loved one that's passed. If you put their photos away, if you don't mention their names, and you say, okay, better off that way, the spirit won't be with you. But if you have a photo of them, if you remember their birthdays, if you remember them at holidays, how things were, when you recall them, a part of them will be there. And that's the way it is with the Tinkers. As long as this is a projection of their life, a part of them will be here. And because we were upstairs just waiting for the camera crew to get here today, and we were sharing back and forth how different yesterday the filming was compared to previous days. And it was identical. It just meshed together. It's like, yeah, I had that problem. And then we started talking about, we were sensing the Tinkers around us. And Mr. Tinker was here to one side and actually asked a question, and we communicated back. And then he relaxed with us, and he leaned against the doorway, and we could both detect his image leaning, which was very nice. And then I think it was Mrs. Tinker that checked how you were.
Okay.
And what did she do?
she started like feeling my skin, and she said I was feverish, and she actually put like a compress of some sort around my neck.
Mm-hmm. And when that was transpiring, I'm watching and I'm listening, and I could see Sonia's hair faintly, just faintly move. It's like, whoa. Just like,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, everything, all the hair on my body is just like standing out. But I know that they are communicating easily with us today.
Right.
And I think for the viewers, it is a great idea to take into consideration if you go someplace that has spirits there and they're not experiencing anything, it could be the people you're there with or the volume of people that are there. It's not that the spirits aren't there, it's just the condition.
I want you to expound more on Mr. Tinker's attitude and stuff, in that this is still his home. They don't change. They're not going to change their attitude or their personal feelings just because they're in spirit form right now.
They had their home willed. Is that correct? It was willed to the city?
To the park district and
Right.
to a board of people she had set up before she passed away.
Right. So they knew their intent after they were gone for what the home was to be to the community. And so they were, at that point in time, set in, this is how it's going to be, this is the way it's going to remain. And when we come in and disrespect that final wish, you know, it's still their home. It is what they wanted to be reflected. And so they will stand and correct us.
While many time periods of our past were characterized by formality, none was more so than the Victorian era. From how you ate your food at the dinner table, to how you wore your clothes, to even how you flirted with someone, everyday life was anything but casual. The Tinker family was no different, as evidenced by the style of their lives, and more importantly, by their lack of hesitation in correcting us when we did something wrong in their home.
Sonia, remember the question you brought up about the crew? Can you go over that again for me?
Oh, their energy interfered.
Absolutely. Because when Sonia started sharing with me, we had the exact same things. We picked up on their personal issues. We picked up on their...
Wasabi in my face right now.
We have twins,
Seriously.
identical twins that work with us, and they have their own language, and we picked up on their communicating back and forth. But it was just like boom, 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 yep. And that was really interfering with communications.
Mm-hmm.
It was. The crew wasn't grounded or settled enough to allow us to experience what we had experienced on several trips before.
That tells you something. I'm just getting really strong feelings as you're
Yeah.
talking about that. When you first brought it up, I was telling you that's when I got like the wasabi in my nose.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like hit it on the head.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I was just walking through the house to get to the upstairs, I could hear Mr. Tinker joining me. I could hear his footsteps. And I went up the stairs and I went into the upper level of the library, and he called me over to look out the window, and he said, "Do you remember us talking before about this view?" There's construction going on outside with big earth-moving equipment across the railroad tracks. And he said, "This is so sad that we're doing this." And he explained that there had been a large section of railroad tracks and sidings, and he said that the reason it's sad is that we are negating or forgetting about the history that was there. He elaborated that when the soldiers' bodies were brought back from the war, there was a coffin or casket builder here that they would unload the bodies, lay them out near the railroad cars, put them in the boxes, and put them back on so they wouldn't arrive at their destination without being in a casket. And he said, we just have completely forgotten that. And he said, that is part of history. That's, yeah, that's like, ooh. Steve, do you know anything about that?
First World War in town, we had the Spanish influenza that hit when all the soldiers were coming back from Europe. It killed thousands of people in town. In fact, they ran out of room in the morgues and they had to use garages as morgues. I know from doing the research, they did lay bodies out on the railroad station for them the cars would pick them up and then they would take them to wherever they're from.
Wow. Yeah, it's just like, you know, I'm emotional now because I'm recalling what Mr. Tinker's emotions were at the time that he was sharing this. He said, you know, how can we forget? How can we let this happen and be disrespectful? He said, because where those bodies were, there was tremendous mourning. He said, it's not a cemetery, but it was a place of grief and mourning. When you hear someone's intonation, it just pierces you to the bone. It's something that has stayed with his spirit this long. It's something that he brings to you to pass on. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
We're like in the most amazing room, like, you know, and it's like all these directions to go. And then we turn back.
Yeah. This room is like a jewel with many facets. And that's Tinker's words. It's not mine. That's, yeah. It's like, whoa.
Please quote him when he says that.
It just gives me chills because he's opening up more now that we're discussing this. And when you said all the different directions, he said that was how he wanted life to be viewed. That there are so many directions that life can be lived. And that's what he wanted this room to convey.
Who's been here before?
So you're asking in spirit form who has passed through these halls?
Yeah, this is pretty significant.
When we were in that room and we were talking about what I thought was residuals around that couch, my bottom gut feeling was that it was Abraham Lincoln, but I didn't hear him say Mr. Lincoln. But I just had this feeling from another spirit in the room that it was. The reason I say that is because the spirit that was talking, kind of like over my shoulder, was saying that this was something that he had to address from people he trusted, because later in his life he would be called to test it. And, you know, putting together, it's like, called to test it. And I thought, okay, Civil War, and when I was, you know, rattling my brain historically, it's like, okay, Civil War, come on, Civil War, what else? Gettysburg Address, and I heard the death of his son. And that's when I thought this was Abraham Lincoln.
I would like to share something with you. Invisible Inc. has changed the whole format of paranormal programming. They do not need EVP recorders or night vision or any other fancy equipment. They are the equipment themselves. As a historian, it's great for me because I'm able to actually take the information that they've given me about the house and the minutiae of their private lives and find it in documentation that we have, and it turns out to be true. Finally, the team does not aggravate the spirits or make them angry, which I love because I have to be here when everyone else is gone.
While exploring locations, the team usually searches for clues or information from spirits to help them with their research. On this visit, there's one particular thing they're looking for, and apparently this time, Steve has the answer.
One thing I heard, Bill, is that you were looking for a library for Invisible Ink. And if you are, we have our library available here at Tinker's Swiss Cottage.
This library.
Yes.
Wow.
That'd be fabulous.
Someone's pretty excited. I'm very excited.
I like it here.
Yeah, that would be great. So we could start each episode off here. We could do our research and head out from here as a base station. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thanks
Yeah,
for coming.
we'll take you up on it.
All right, thanks.
That means you're gonna pop in from time to time, right? So thank you for joining us here at Tinker Cottage. Over the last few visits, we've really gotten to know some of the spirits, as well as learn about the Victorian era and spiritualism. To learn more, you can visit us online at tinkercottage.com. And if you're in the Rockford area, you can even visit in person, where you'll definitely get to meet Steve. And if you're open to it, you might even meet some of the spirits here. Oh, and keep in mind that whether it's here, in the Tinker's home, or if it's in your own home, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Either way, we'll see you next time on Invisible Ink.